Good evening. Welcome to Take on Tech, your number one tech show that keeps you updated on all matters technology. We have so much in store for you. So if you know someone who has not yet tuned in, tell them to get on board because Take on Tech is right about to take off. My name is Stephanie Ayata and the hashtag is Take on Tech. Thank you for joining us. As you know already, it is a pleasure having you around. So let's get the show started already. A study shows that we spend 5 hours a day on our phones, and statistics have it that this could be a contributing factor to mental health illnesses. So we are asking you, do you think that ditching your smartphone for an analog phone could help save your mental health? Talk to us and give us the reasons why using the hashtag TakeOnTech at KBC Channel 1. As you do that, we'll tell you why the Communication Authority says that Safaricom has a high pricing power compared to its competitors. Also, about a flying car that has been certified as airworthy by the Slovak Transport Authority. This and much more in our tech news. According to Business Daily, the Communication Authority of Kenya says that Safaricom has a huge pricing power in voice services, making it difficult for rivals such as Airtel Kenya and Telkom Kenya to compete with it. This is in response to a case by Safaricom at the Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal seeking to cut the mobile termination rate by 88% from 0.99 shillings to 0.12 shillings, terming the move unprocedural. The regulator responded by stating that the leading telco has the lowest cost of operations, allowing it to run promotions at prices below the MTR and which its rivals are not in a position to match. The regulator added that it considers Safaricom's ability to offer rates as low as 0.2 shillings per minute, an indication that the telco's cost of production is much lower than 0.99 shillings, the rate prior to the contested revision. Safaricom has been running promotion and a special offer that has seen it price its per minute voice services at a range of between 0.2 shillings and 1 shillings, according to an analysis by the regulator. The regulator argues that Safaricom can absorb the 87.9% revenue loss amounting to billions of shillings a year. According to an article by BBC, a flying car capable of hitting speeds of over 160 kilometers per hour and altitudes above 8,000 feet has been issued with a certificate of airworthiness by the Slovak Transport Authority. The hybrid car aircraft is equipped with a BMW engine and runs on regular petrol pump fuel. It takes 2 minutes and 15 seconds to transform from car into aircraft. The certification followed 70 hours of flight testing and more than 200 takeoffs and landings, the company said. In June, the flying car completed a 35-minute flight between international airports in Nitra and Bratislava, Slovakia. The company told BBC News it planned to fly to London from Paris in near future. Other companies are also developing vehicles that can fly and be driven on the roads. That has been our tech news. Well, we can't wait for this plane to be commercialized already, and judging from how technology keeps evolving, it won't take much time. With that, let's now move on to our tech of the week. Data breaches broke record in 2021 with the Identity Theft Resource Center's annual report showing that it rose by 68%. We'll be giving you more details about this in our tech of the week. Here it goes. A data breach takes place where there is intentional or unintentional access or release of confidential information from a data source to an untrusted environment. Based on the number of data breach incidences recorded in the US by the Identity Theft Resource Center's 2021 data breach report, there were 1,862 data breaches last year, surpassing both 2020's total of 1,108 and the previous record of 1,506 set in 2017. Currently, companies understand that the cost of a data breach will outweigh the cost of preventive measures. This is evidenced by the fact that organizations have adopted new technologies and systems aimed at reducing the cost. The technologies and systems are configured to allow huge uptake of data from users, therefore a risk to consumers' data protection and privacy rights. The effects brought on by data breach can come in the form of damage to the company's reputation due to a perceived betrayal of trust. Their customers may also suffer financial losses should related records be part of the information stolen. There are many areas exploitable by cyber criminals who use this to cross privilege boundaries within a computer system. Some of the areas, as highlighted in the 2020-2021 Cybersecurity Report by Communication Authority of Kenya, are system vulnerabilities. These are weaknesses exploitable by cyber criminals who use this to cross privilege boundaries within a computer system. Malware. This refers to any malicious code or programs such as viruses, bugs, worms, bots, rootkits, spyware, adware, trojans, and even ransomware that gives a cybercriminal explicit control over your system. Phishing, which is the fraudulent attempt by a cybercriminal to obtain sensitive data by posing as a trustworthy party. Web application attacks. These are executed by leveraging on web application vulnerabilities such as misconfiguration in website application code that allow cybercriminals to gain control of the website. Distributed denial of service attack is another one, which is a malicious attempt to disrupt normal traffic of a targeted server, service, or network by overwhelming the target or its surrounding IT infrastructure with a flood of internet traffic. Well, here are a few best practices to avoid a data breach. Patching and updating software as soon as options are available. High-grade encryption for sensitive data. Upgrading devices when the software is no longer supported by the factory. Enforcing BYOD security policies. Enforcing strong credentials and multi-factor authentication to encourage better user cybersecurity practices. That has been our Tech of the Week. Back to our question, we are asking you, do you think that ditching your smartphone for an analog phone could help save your mental health? Talk to us using the hashtag TakeOnTech at KBC Channel 1. And as you do that, we join the lovely Githaiga and her guest in the studio for a lovely conversation.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that introduction. Welcome to the interview section of Take on Tech, a weekly program that explores contemporary technological concepts and debates and brings you an expert to break down the technology concept in an antique way. My name is Githaiga, and today we are going to be speaking about open government. You know, what is open government? What does it entail? What is it all about? And in the studio, we have Philip Thigo. Philip Thigo is the Senior Director, Thunderbird School of Management, and an advisor on data and open government. He advises several organizations, international organizations, on open and data government. So he'll be unpacking for us what open government is all about. Karibu sana, Philip, to the program.
Thank you so much, Grace, for having me.
All right, now, just start the program by telling us what is open government to Wanjiko.
Open government basically is, if you think about it, is a doctrine that emphasizes that citizens have a right to access information, data, and participate in an informed manner on issues that matter to them around governance. So if people are going to be governed, whether it's around budgets, whether it's around projects, whether it's around resources, whether it's around their allocation and how they are used, who wins contracts, citizens have a right to that information and participation.
I would like you to just break down this open government portal. You know, I'm trying to think like the way Kenyans were saying, fungua server. So yes. is it a physical, if it's a tech, you know, just unpack
So it's a combination. So if you look at technology as an enabler, right? And that's why we are combining both the multi-stakeholder permanent dialogue mechanism and then the technologies that enable that permanent dialogue mechanism to have an interaction that is both fruitful and meaningful. So if you think about the pieces I've mentioned, so the open data portal, then it's a technology platform, of course, but then which government publishes its data. But the data that is published is based on a consensus, right? Because you can publish any data. That data must be of development value, right? So at that time, you remember it was CDF. Now, the biggest issue that citizens have is procurement. So that's the data now that people are pushing to be published. You cannot procure without a company. So the other data set now that is people are pushing to be published, but also the law has enabled from from the Companies Act amendment is a beneficial ownership register, where those with the largest share of a company, that data must be made public. So you can see how there's a combination of factors.
And where is this made public? Is it online?
It's online.
Is it
it's online. It's online.
Okay.
And it has to be online.
Okay. Where on government?
Formats. Yes. So the Open Data Portal, of course, is under ICT Authority. The PPA, the Beneficial Ownership Register, is under Business Registration Service. Judiciary, of course, is in the judiciary. But you can see also, if you go online, the Kenya Law Reporting, you'll actually see a lot of the cases and caseloads.
Okay, so that's like open.
Yeah, they're all open.
That's an open.
It's all there. Searchable. Yeah.
Searchable.
Every case, by the way, if you Google now, is all there.
All right. Thanks. Take on Tech takes a short break. And today we are hosting Philip Thigo, who is actually an advisor on open government. Please continue following us on all our social media handles across all platforms, and that's at KBC Channel 1. You're watching the interview section of Take on Tech, and in today's program we are speaking about open government. What is it all about, and how can you benefit as a citizen of this country from information on the open government? And in the studio to help us understand, we have Philip Thigo. Now, Philip, before we went on break, we were just talking about how you can access that information, where you can get it. Now, and I think I'll still just come to you very quickly. Can wananchi participate in open government? Because it's sounding like it's government, it's judiciary, it's it's CDF, it's
yes.
yeah.
So I think two parts. So the first part of that discussion is open government, as I said, is a doctrine, and I think it is the right of citizens to understand that, especially in a country like Kenya, where the constitution is very clear on the supremacy of citizens, that by right they have to participate in creating a culture of open government. The how, of course, the partnership is one channel, because not everybody is in the partnership. But the open government partnership, which is how Kenya articulates open government, normally has a 2-year cycle. So each 2-year cycle, civil society and government agree on priorities. And the priorities are always around the agenda of the government of the day. In this cycle, Big Four was the agenda of the day.
For the people,
So what the Open Government Partnership did is evolve what we call an action plan. And the action plan is in 2-year cycles. That is very clear on commitments. And commitments must be ambitious, right? So in this, for example, in the current National Action Plan, which is National Action Plan 4, for example, the one big commitment is around beneficial ownership, right? So issues, how do you ensure that you enforce that part of the law? The new commitment on this one is on access to justice, and an access to justice for indigent, so people who do not have capability of representing themselves in court. So that is one very specific commitment for this one. The other one is very specifically around expanding open government. We know counties in Kenya matter. So in the previous National Action Plan, we only had one county in Kenya, which was Elgeyo Marakwet. Then Makueni came in. So if you see a lot of the progress in Makueni around public participation, that is in a big way due to open government. because what it did was it brought on global partners and people with tools and capabilities, especially for open contracting. Makueni is the only country that does that, so organizations like HIVO supported that heavily, the World Bank, and over time mentored, trained, worked with Makueni, governor and his chief of staff around that. Now you have Githaiga that is going specifically on saying we want to leverage on technology to do a smarter spatial planning. So through the Open Government Partnership, they have a GIS center, they have access to satellite data, and so Githaiga is using satellite data to plan Githaiga. Nandi has followed Githaiga, and now Nandi has done the same. Nairobi has just joined Open Government Partnership as a city to ensure that Nairobi becomes a smart city. But then smartness is not about just technology. That technology is supposed to involve citizens in how the city is planned and managed.
Wow. Okay, tell me, that sounds very interesting. Can citizens from other counties demand that their county governments also utilize open
and they
government?
should. And that is the point. And they should. And I remember a call was made in the previous devolution conference that can counties also join this. One mechanism actually through this is through the Africa peer review mechanism. Because Kenya, again, through the leadership of His Excellency the President, has been a vanguard country on the Africa peer review mechanism. What Kenya has done, and through Open Government Partnership, is to do a county peer review mechanism. So in the county peer review mechanism is where Open Government articulates itself. And remember, it's about peer review. So it's to get governors to review themselves around development targets. And through that, citizens can participate, but also demand. Because Kenya is a signatory to IPRM. County is now a part of it. So why should citizens demand that type of service?
No, I'm just thinking of, ordinary citizens back at the, back at Mtaa. They don't know how they would do that. So that's the sort of thing, I was thinking that for example, I can go to Nakuru, which is my home county, and actually, how do we demand?
So a couple of things. As I said, you must have the mechanism, right? As I said, in terms of the doctrine, we have a right. But then the how is what matters. See, we can say we have a right to open government, but then how do you do it? Right now, it articulates itself through these action plans. The demand is, can you get your governors to be part of developing those action plans? I think for me, that's one. Because you must have indicators to hold somebody to account. Otherwise, you want to participate, but participation for participation's sake, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So for me, that would be
Now, tell me, what would you consider success in this process? I know you've mentioned Githaiga, you've mentioned Elgeyo Marakwet and Makueni, but what would you consider as, in the process, because you've been involved in those years? Just like 2 or 3 key successes.
I think the big success, if you ask me, honestly, is the multi-stakeholder network. Network itself, and then the approach. Because to have, and really, this is really thanks to this government, I think, in terms of how they've adopted it, is very difficult for a government official to sit with civil society at the same level, right? And also difficult to have counties sit in the same room with government and civil society and speak on issues of transparency, accountability. Let's be honest, it's very difficult. But also to subject yourself to peer review and independent review. So that for me is an achievement. So it means at least we are getting there in terms of culture. Then once that culture is set, then you have the other specifics of projects that articulate themselves. So I think for me, the achievement is one, the multi-stakeholder network, but also the sort of shift in terms of attitude that we can actually sit in a room and talk. And honestly, if you look at the public media, you no longer see that antagonism between civil society and government, especially when it comes to civil society, because there's a space where right now they have real conversations. So I'm not abusing you in the media. It's about, okay, so if the issue is about beneficial ownership, because some companies are the ones that get 10 contracts more than the other, then there's a forum,
Yeah.
and then we can hold each other to account.
Okay. Now, I want to give you this opportunity to speak to other county governments that have not embraced open government.
My call really to any county that has not embraced open government is, first of all, it's just smart politics. Because the idea of open government is it enables you to engage your citizens on matters, on issues that matter to them. Secondly, it's not about your government, it's a we government. So it's to the extent that every step of the way your citizens are engaged, but also you get meaningful feedback from citizens on how you're performing, but also areas you can improve. And in that way, if you ask me, that's smart politics. And secondly, there's enough resources in the partnership, because it's 78 countries, it's 76 subnational governments, so there's inspiration globally. You save a lot of time. You don't need to go to benchmark. All these things can come to you so that you can improve your services for your citizens.
Okay. I just wanted quickly before we close, is there an issue of data and how data is handled? Because I think when you advise on data and open government, and I think data is very important.
Yes. I see data as a public good. And citizens cannot participate or engage without data. And when I say data, it's really information, right? So you process in a way that has meaning to the user. And there's a data issue. And to the extent that a lot of the public service delivery issues like health, our data systems are not up to date. Agriculture, our agriculture census still is, and I know the ministry because I support them in these things, are trying to work in a way that data set is interoperable. But then there's an issue of data literacy, because data is abstract. But then how do you ensure that people understand what is data, what is information, and then how do you use that knowledge in a way that can enable you to engage in conversations that have meaning. But I think finally for me, it's never about the data. It's about the interpretation and how that leads to effective policy making. And policy making that is responsive to the current needs, but also for posterity. For me, that's always a challenge. Otherwise, we get caught up into the mechanics of data, and I try as much as possible to the people I advise is to move them beyond the mechanics of data and to the extent of how it delivers value for citizens.
Okay. What a nice way to end the interview.
Thank
you
you.
know, how does data deliver services? And, you know, how does it become useful for policy making and making decisions?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Philip. That's it from our interview section of Take on Tech. Today we were hosting Philip Thigo, who is the Senior Director, Thunderbird School of Global Management, and advisor on data and open government. Thank you so much. My name is Grace Githaiga. Please continue following us on our social media handles, and that's at KBC Channel 1 across all our social media handles.
We have now come to our Innovators Club. This is where we bring you great technological innovations and inventions. We have hosted great minds in this place. So in case you are an innovator or a tech startup and you'd like to be featured, well, we are here to show off your brilliance to the world. Just talk to us. For today, we have a DIY which you can do at home with minimal resources. Check it out. Well, that was the curtain on today's show, but as you know, the conversation never stops. Today's question, we ask you, do you think that ditching your smartphone for an analog phone could help save your mental health? Talk to us at KBC Channel 1 using the hashtag #TakeOnTech. You can also talk to me at Stephanie_Ayeta, that is on Instagram, or Stephanie Ayeta across all other social media platforms. Let's meet next week, same time, same place. Until then, adios!